project on depression in the modern world, and I'm really excited to learn more. Thank you so much.
So over the course of the past semester, I've been exploring various factors that have been contributing to mental health crisis that's occurring in our modern world with the increased rates of depression. So first of all, to give some background on what depression is and what it looks like in the modern world. Depression is a disease with some detrimental effects. These effects include social, emotional, and everyday function. Some of the social effects are social anhedonia, where we cease to find fulfillment and purpose in activities and interactions that we would normally find interesting fulfillment in, as well as increased sensitivity to social rejection. Emotional effects include persistent hopelessness, a feeling of helplessness, and a great deal of pessimism. And everyday function sleeping patterns, eating patterns, and our definitions to accomplishing everything. Depression has there are multiple vulnerabilities that can increase somebody's likelihood of developing depression. These include cognitive, personality, biological, genetic factors, and stressful negative life events. In terms of cognitive and personality factors, if somebody exhibits a negative idea or negative outlook on the world itself or against themselves, this can put them at a higher risk of the development of depression. And for biological and genetic factors, the ways that we respond to stressful negative life events and the ways that we respond to situations in general, as well as whether or not we have family members that have dealt with depression before, can both impact our likelihood of developing the disease ourselves. All of these kind of come together around stressful negative life events. Usually the disease, depression, or depressive episode will be triggered by a stressful negative life event, and the likelihood of that happening is kind of determined by the previously discussed vulnerabilities. To give an idea of what it looks like in today's modern world, we've gone from an 8% rate of depression among teens in 2007 to 13% in 2017. More than 7 in 10 young adults today report depressive symptoms, so they may not meet all the criteria to get an official diagnosis of depression, but they're experiencing one or more of the symptoms associated with the disease. Today I'll be discussing the factors of technology, social media, decreased physical activity, increased community involvement, and COVID-19. Starting off with technology, over the past 30 years or so, technology has taken the world by storm and changed the ways that we gather information, shop, interact with each other, and the ways that we work with each other. It's kind of manifests on every part of everyday function. Currently, U.S. teenagers are averaging screen time of 7 hours per day, and that's excluding homework. Research has shown that the duration of internet usage has a positive and longitudinal association with depression. The shift of information and socialization to a digital form from previously a physical form has affected various aspects of cognition, including our attention capacities, memory processes, and our social cognition. Currently, we're interacting with people less in face-to-face environments, and we've exhibited a type of dehumanization when it comes to social interactions and the interactions that are occurring through technology-mediated environments. So the dehumanization in part is caused by fewer nonverbal cues that we're able to read off of during these social interactions. It can reduce the understanding of thoughts and feelings between communicators, and it decreases the perceived social connection within the interaction. It accounts for less intimacy, less emotion, less sense of oneness, and a greater sense of self-awareness between communicators. And if somebody has a greater sense of self-awareness and they're focusing more on themselves, they're focusing less on the social interaction itself and the positive effects that they can have from that. There's also a greater potential for anonymity when it comes to technology-mediated interactions, and research has shown that with that greater potential for anonymity, you can see increased rates of aggression and inhibition of meaningful personal connections when it comes to interactions. Research has found that technology-mediated interactions are much less effective for positive mental health outcomes than face-to-face interactions. To give some statistics on this, one empirical study compared different types of interactions and scored them and their effects towards positive mental health outcomes. The face-to-face group exhibited a 2.17 out of 2.5 median importance to positive mental health outcomes. The text group exhibited a 1.19 out of 2.5 score for median importance. Video conferencing was 0.48 and phone calls were 0.34. So it kind of shows how important face-to-face interactions are in comparison to technology-mediated interactions when it comes to maintaining positive mental health. The decreased perceived social connections can also lead to increased feelings of social isolation because we're not gathering all of those benefits of social interactions that we would be gathering in face-to-face environments. And that can lead to, or social isolation is correlated with depression as well. Next, I'll be talking about social media. Social media kind of started with Facebook in 2004, and since then we've seen the rise of Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter, a variety of other ones, and it's kind of come to dictate a lot of people's lives. Currently, people are spending an average of 2.3 hours daily on social media, and as of 2016, 97.5% of young adults are using at least one social media platform on a regular basis. Social media use can lead to something called problematic social media usage. The symptoms of problematic social media usage are similar to those of addiction. We can see tolerance towards extended periods of use, preoccupation, usage, and these can lead to impaired performance in everyday life, and even withdrawal symptoms when it comes to social media. People have begun looking to social media for social validation. With technologies lacking importance when it comes to mental health benefits, as we've discussed already, it's not logical for people to be looking towards social media for these benefits when they could be interacting in face-to-face interactions and gathering much more benefit, or many more benefits when it comes to automating a sense of social validation. Research has found that focusing on likes, comments, and followers is the most significant aspect of social media, leading to detrimental mental health outcomes. This kind of goes along with looking to social media for social validation. If you're putting a heavy emphasis on getting as many likes, comments, and followers as possible on your accounts, you're kind of looking for social validation in a way where it isn't present, and it can lead to detrimental mental health outcomes because that's what they're relying on for further validation. Problematic social media use and social media use in general can also create an environment that promotes cyberbullying and coordination. These kind of go along with that theme of greater potential for anonymity. If it's not like a person-to-person, in-person interaction, there's a sense of anonymity there. People have higher tendencies to exhibit aggression in their interactions. Additionally, problematic social media users look to influencers and celebrity role models. This can lead to feelings like negative social comparison, appearance comparison, and impaired body image. Next, we'll talk about displaced behavior theory. This kind of states that if somebody is spending so many hours in a day on social media and using technology, that is time that they're not spending in behaviors that could be protecting them from depression. So next I'll get into a couple of protective factors that we've seen a decrease in since the rise of technology and the rise of social media. One of the protective factors is physical activity. Right now the world is becoming more inactive and more obese and missing out on this huge protective factor from depression. In a study done from 2019 to 2020 in Britain among a younger population, we saw an increase from 35% to 51% in individuals classed as unfit, just to give some context as to this claim. 30% of the population is currently failing to meet physical activity recommendations, and research has found that exhibiting physical activity 3 times per week can help us to see a 25% decrease in the risk for depression. This is in part due to a synergistic effect that physical activity has with sociality, leading to higher self-esteem, self-efficacy, and pursuit of social support. It can also exhibit neural benefits when it comes to physical activity. These include the endocrine system, where we see reduced inflammation, reduced activation of stress-related pathways when we engage in physical activity. And it also affects our hippocampus, which has a relation to depressions, where we regulate stress and regulate emotions. When we engage in physical activity, we see increased functioning and increased blood flow to the hippocampus. So all of these things kind of make physical activity a pretty huge protective factor for depression. And given the amount of time people are spending in sedentary lifestyles, like sitting at a desk or watching TV or on social media, we're kind of missing out on taking advantage of this protective factor. Another protective factor I'll talk about is decreased community involvement. These include things like religion, enjoying time with people with similar interests, enjoying time with neighbors, even enjoying time with people who like the same sports teams. So this is also classified as a protective factor against depression. It can lead to a sense of belonging, a sense of purpose, self-worth, security, and it can also provide us with some much-needed emotional connections. Research has found that those with a negative sense of community are 5 times more likely to report depression. This kind of traces back to the displaced behavior theory, where people who are spending more time invested in social media and in socially isolating activities are spending less time engaging with their community and taking advantage of this protective factor. Research has found that there is a correlation between high social isolation, high rates of depression, and low senses of community. So the not taking advantage of this protective factor of community involvement, the protective factor of physical activity, is increasing the risk that our population right now in the world is at when it comes to the development of depression, and it could be responsible for the increased rates of depression that we're seeing today. Now I'm going to talk about COVID-19. This is a worldwide pandemic that happened a few years ago. It was a worldwide stressful negative life event, which, as was discussed earlier, can kind of be a tipping point towards exhibiting depression or falling into a depressive episode. The lockdown and pandemic-related stress exacerbated every previous issue that I've talked about today in terms of social development and social capital, especially among adolescents. It kind of put a halt to people's development and capital. And adolescents especially are at a risk for depression and are in a period of social development and like developing identity. So this was definitely detrimental to this age group. COVID-19 caused more technology-mediated communication, especially with Zoom and video conferencing. As we stated earlier, with face-to-face interaction had a much higher importance when it comes to positive mental health outcomes than technology-mediated communication. It further increased social media use and increased the risk of developing problematic social media use tendencies. It led to feelings of social liability, where individuals feel responsible for the well-being of other people in their lives, for their mental well-being, and the inability to contribute to others' mental well-beings led to high feelings of stress, led to anger, anxiety, and loneliness, all of which can contribute to the development of depression. It also further decreased physical activity and halted community engagement as a whole because of the lockdown and the stress we saw from the pandemic. For conclusions, throughout this project, I tried to get a greater understanding of the mental health crisis that was plaguing our psychological and medical community needs to be aware of the group of factors that are affecting our populations and putting them at a higher risk of developing depression. For future research and suggestions, I think we should be conducting more empirical studies, testing treatments or alternative approaches to the known associations that we've discussed today that are putting people at risk of depression. I think the primary physicians should be informing parents about risk and protective factors when it comes to depression so that we can plan accordingly and try to save future generations from dealing with the same statistics that we're dealing with right now. I think government policies and recommendations, at least, regarding technology use, especially among our youth, should be put into place to make sure that the rates don't continue rising and that we can hopefully get the right down for future generations. That's my thesis.
Fascinating, and thinking as someone non-medical but working at a college and dealing with, thinking about the next class of freshmen coming in, dealing with some of these things and thinking about what can we do to help them build up their protective factors is going to be so much to think about. But for now, I'm going to turn things over to your advisor, Dr. Dish, who will present you with the cord and stole that you'll wear at graduation to recognize this accomplishment, but also everything that you contributed to the honors program. Thank you so much.
Working with Brendan has been a pleasure. Brendan and I actually met this semester over his work on the thesis. And I'll admit, I know like this much about depression, and so this has been a huge learning opportunity for me. Brendan's done a great job getting into the literature. As with our previous presenter, the literature here is vast and deep, and Brendan has done a great job of kind of honing in on the things that really matter, and I'm looking forward to seeing where you take it.
Yeah, so one of the things I'm wondering if you ran across in the literature at all is I was thinking about the fact that, like, I don't doubt that all the factors you reviewed definitely contribute, but did you run into anything, and I guess this would be hard to measure, about whether people are just more likely to seek help and report their depression now? Because I've wondered about the fact that, like, mental health stigma is still there, but I think there is more conversation, and so it makes me wonder whether in past generations there was a greater portion of people who were suffering in silence.
My idea of what this was going to be was a lot wider when I first started, and I was going to look into like whether people are just more aware of the fact that they might have depression, or even like DSM criteria, and whether like maybe the DSM criteria is kind of more, or like it's easier to diagnose someone with depression now, or if it was harder to diagnose someone with depression like 20 years ago with the previous DSM version. But for the sake of keeping my paper below like 30 pages, I kind of honed in on like more environmental factors. But I think there's definitely an increased awareness of like what's going on in terms of mental health, like on a worldwide perspective, and people definitely coming forward and trying to seek treatment more often. But I don't have statistics on that.
Well, what would your like commercial or PSA look like that the government were going to put out something to discourage youth from using social media consulting?
It's kind of hard to say. I saw something recently about a Florida law that's going to require parental consent for people below the age of 14 to like create social media accounts and use social media. So that is something that could happen, but obviously people are going to get past that. So it's kind of hard to say exactly what kind of policies could be put in place. But I think they could definitely provide some recommendations and at least some knowledge on things that can be done regarding risk factors and protective factors. I don't know what exact commercial like.
I'm remembering the commercial that came out, with the A and the line can, this is your so, I mean, even if like commercial entities got involved, like Meta or Google, and they had, ads that went across your screen every 15 minutes or 30 minutes, like, have you taken a break? Have you taken a break lately? Or go outside, see the sunshine, or just something like that.
you read